Hey everyone, coming up, I have for you Elise exposing how Rob tried to fool production to get her into his bed, the cast revealing their shocking body counts, and how Chantel says Cortney broke girl code in their love triangle with Usman. Yes, that's right. I watched 90 Day Hunt for Love Between the Sheets, episode 2, so that you don't have to. And I have all the juicy tidbits from the singles, the normie singles, the 90 Day singles, and the therapist spilling what was really going down behind the scenes. Let's jump right into it because I don't usually give my opinion on this. I'm trying to get it through quick and give you the hits, the important stuff. But I have something to say about how this episode opened of Between the Sheets with Chantel critiquing her co-stars' faces. That's right. They showed her pictures of everyone and had Chantel kind of explain how much Botox everyone would need. And this was the point at which Chantel described her friend Courtney, or at least we thought who was her friend, as having a gummy smile, which is not very nice. And was interesting to me because then they immediately showed a clip of Courtney talking about her gummy smile. Did she get that phrase from Chantel? Was this something they had talked about? Is Chantel sparking insecurities for Courtney while really displaying her own insecurities? There was also another moment. This is just a bad look for the women, and I want to talk about it because it's not really. There was another moment where Courtney is talking about, she sees a clip and she's like, oh my gosh, I look so bad. Do I really look like that? Oh my gosh, she was kind of freaking out. And that's something we can all relate to, right? You see a video of yourself, you're like, oh my God, do I really look like that? Well, she's sitting with Elise in this interview segment, and Elise turns to her and says, oh no, how reassuring. You look so much better in person. Yikes. Elise, maybe we knew what you meant, but also, in episode 1 of Between the Sheets, Elise talks about how she knew who the 90 Day singles were when they all took their masks off because they weren't the hot people and all the normie singles were the hot ones. So a lot of discussion about being hot. Obviously, we hear Tim talking about his insecurities, and now production has even sparked this conversation by asking Chantel's to critique her co-stars. Right? It makes me think about how the women especially, there is so much conversation about the way they look. If you want to go and clock this, look at anything that talks about anything 90 Day or anything about Chantel, especially, and Courtney, every other comment at least will be about the way that they look. So I think the women have become so accustomed to everyone talking about the way they look. I know from my own experience, maybe have become hyper focused on it because it seems like everyone else is too. And so it is certainly understandable why it wouldn't seem unusual for them to be critiquing each other and critiquing themselves. I think they could really back each other up here and support each other. And I'm sure they do a lot of that as well. But this was just a pretty bad look. And again, I want to kind of lead with empathy and encourage everyone to think about how much vitriol Chantel gets about the way she looks, how she cannot say or post or do anything without most of the conversation being about her appearance. So I don't blame her for kind of going in hard on everybody else either. It's super understandable. Now let's get to the juicy stuff about the episode. Elise exposing Rob. So we get more of this backstory about what happened the night of the masquerade ball, the phone calls and the text. I talked a little bit about it in the first episode of this show. But Rob claims that when he texted Elise after the masquerade party saying that they could hang out that night, he says he also wanted to add, but we aren't going to do anything, which is weird enough. And also an odd claim considering that he admits, but he didn't add that or say anything like that. He says because he didn't want her to think that he was assuming that she was DTF and kind of take it as a rejection. So even though he wanted to be clear and clarify, I don't want to get you into bed, he didn't do that. Rob also says he made kind of this grandiose comment of saying, oh, I saw Elise laying with and flirting with a whole bunch of the guys at the masquerade party before she kissed him. Bro, calm down with all that. We see you. Because Elise pulls out the text receipts. Okay. Right. That's why I need to watch Behind the Sheets, that I can tell you what happened, not so that we all need to watch it. Because we are getting the receipts here. One was Rob asking her to hang out. He also suggested that she come to her room. When she didn't respond, Elise says he called her not once, but twice, and told her this. You guys are not going to believe this. Okay. Rob, on this phone call late at night on day one at the resort, when he had seemingly on camera rejected Elise, told her, oh, don't worry, babe. You can come over to my room. I've turned off the cameras so production won't know what goes down. Ugh, Rob keeps trying to act like he is not trying to hook up with everyone when he is at least trying to clearly hook up with Elise. And the idea that on set on one of these shows that a castmate would turn off the cameras with the intention of having an intimate reaction is very scary. We all know what went down on Bachelor in Paradise a few years ago, and that almost ruined the entire franchise. These producers need and want to have video of what goes down between these cast members, whether it's in the room or at the resort or wherever, because that protects their liability. It also protects the safety of the cast members. Obviously, I get what Rob was trying to do here and just be secretive, not necessarily that he had nefarious intentions, but that is super problematic, the idea of turning off the cameras in the room, for a whole lot of reasons, and it is worth discussing. On that note, a little more lighthearted on what was going down in these rooms. On Between the Sheets, episode 2, they have this fun little conversation about body count, right? They've sat some of the cast members down together, some of them down individually, and they're talking to each other, they're talking to producers. And one of the things they talk about is what was their last Google search and how many people have been in their bed. In case you were wondering, Colt's last Google search was for himself. Surprise, surprise. And his body count is, he figures, somewhere between 50 and 100. There are 50 to 100 crazy people in the world, so I guess that's believable. This is the point in the episode where I think Elise was maybe feeling self-conscious, and she, again, as she has at other points in Between the Sheets, reiterated that she thrives in relationships. She is not a crazy serial dater who's out there, although she admits she's been engaged 3 times. We all know that she was at the resort a year before this with her 3rd fiance, and what went down there. But she's really trying hard not to get into the body count conversation. Chantel, on the other hand, doesn't really have much of a problem revealing her number of 8. She did say it's gone up recently. And I'm also wondering if there's a couple Atlanta rappers on that list. So, there's always more research we can do. But that was a fun little tidbit on the show. We've got more to get into. Who is catching feelings on Hunt for Love? We get a little bit more insight into that on Between the Sheets, even a never before seen scene. So the way they set it up is Chantel is an interview talking about how she wanted to kiss Rob while they were at the resort. She saw him, found him attractive, and she wanted to kiss him. So they roll the footage of a scene we did not see on the show, but seems very important. So I guess there's just too much to cover. But in the scene that they show, it's Chantel and Rob and a couple of the other singles hanging out and drinking. And Chantel tells Rob that she wants to kiss him. And they kind of flirty, it's awkward, go back and forth, and they end up just laughing and not locking lips. So Chantel reveals in Between the Sheets that the reason why they didn't kiss is because she could tell that Rob isn't into her. He seems to be the only guy at the resort, by the way, who isn't gaga for Chantel. But she could tell that he didn't want to kiss her. And so, she wasn't going to humiliate herself in that way, which is, of course, understandable. But man, everybody, there really were potential for love connections at this resort. And I guess we have to keep watching to find out if there really were any. I keep hearing rumblings that Colt and Cortney really make a go of it. And Colt did say in an interview, he reveals that on that second morning at the resort after the masquerade party, he and Cortney had breakfast together. And so they did kind of establish a little bit of a rapport. And Colt says he really wishes that he would have been paired with Cortney during the flirting challenge instead of Lexi, which I disagree with. I think Lexi was good for him and told him exactly what he needed to hear. I like her, and I can't wait to see her put a few more of the 90-day men in their place. How about who is not catching feelings? Okay, Tim and Jeniffer are still going back and forth about what happened 7 years ago, and Tim says something on Between the Sheets that really irked me. Tell me what you guys think about this. Tim guesses that the reason why Jeniffer hates him so much is because back when they were dating, and we already heard on episode 1 of Between the Sheets the story about what went down when they tried to sleep together, allegedly. But Tim says when he was there visiting her, Jeniffer would walk around naked, kind of flaunt herself a little bit, and Tim took some kind of sick pleasure in acting like he didn't care, in acting like she wasn't hot, acting like he didn't want to look at her, he didn't care if she's naked, he wasn't excited by her body. Tim actually puts it this way. He says, Jeniffer thinks I get off on watching her with male strippers. What I really get off on is showing Jeniffer she is not really that hot. Ew, Tim, oh my gosh, this is clearly just coming from your insecurities, and that is so like mean and gross and weird, and really explains why your guys' relationship didn't work out, and kind of puts a lot of the blame on you. So, bro, maybe you thought you sounded cool by, bragging to the guys who have questioned how you pulled Jeniffer in the first place. So I get that maybe you want to be like, no, guys, she wanted it so bad, and I didn't even care. Ugh, not a good look, Tim. Although this show is making me like him a little bit more, but mostly just because I have empathy for him. One more major love triangle developing, we got to keep an eye on this, was Chantel really Usman's first choice before Cortney? We've heard how he, had this trip with Cortney about a year before they started filming in Turkey. We've heard how he had slid into Tiffany's DMs before that. He's going on and on about how beautiful everybody is. Usman's for everyone. And we find out that when Cortney and Usman were spending time together in Turkey, Usman actually admitted to Cortney that he was attracted to Chantel. And Cortney, it sounds like, they're trying to make it out like Cortney is gaga over Usman and has been since day one. But it sounds like when Cortney learned that he was really after Chantel, he kind of tried to hook them up. He sent Chantel Usman's picture and was like, hey, you could get it if you would want it. And Chantel's response, Usman was still around. Him and Cortney were in Turkey. And so he knows full well Chantel responded and said, ew, no, not that scammer. Okay, so this is initially how Usman found out that Chantel called him a scammer. It's when him and Cortney were spending time together and he was trying to get at both of them, is what it sounds like. So that's pretty juicy, and really, I think why that's important is because it's obvious that Cortney knew that Usman was interested in Chantel, way back then when she's saying they were spending time together, and Cortney saying that Usman also was telling her that he wanted to be with her, especially after their trip. But clearly, Cortney would have a reason to see Chantel as a threat if she really was trying to spark up a relationship with Usman, which at this point in the show, it kind of looks like he's her number one, right? Colt's coming in at a distant second. But this could really develop into a love triangle that is fueled with even more hatred and animosity because of Chantel calling Usman a scammer. He would still take it. I am so sure. And I know you are too. So if you didn't have time to tune into 90 Day Hunt for Love Between the Sheets episode 2, that's everything you missed. The cast all did these renditions of Usman's I Love You song. They all had to write these little songs for each other. And it was really silly and cute. If you need something on in the background, maybe turn it on. But again, I just told you all the good stuff. So saving you some time, make sure you come back here on Tuesdays when I will be giving you this insight into everything that was said and spilled on Between the Sheets. If you hit that subscribe button and turn on the notifications, that'll just make it easier for you so you don't miss anything. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to check out my videos on the Hunt for Love exes. I know you want to know what happened to Ronald and Larissa. Oh my God, Larissa. And oh my God, Jesse. So much good stuff there. Check that one out. And my most recent video on the fired stars of 90 Day will tell you everything you need to know about why baby girl Lisa disappeared into the 90-day ether. So thank you guys so very much for watching. And I will see you super soon. Bye-bye.